You're training more than your child. You're training generations.
This week on Celebrity Talk Show.
I truly think that fathers sometimes go overlooked.
I can probably give him the things that probably I needed.
They're a product of their environment and everything that we put into them.
If he's not being led by God, who is he being led by?
There are three main things that you want to present in a household. And it is our job as fathers to make sure that that happens. That seems to be the missing link in a lot of households.
There's always improvement for us. As our kids grow and they change and they go through their seasons, we're going through our seasons too. The generation that we have of children today. And I said, well, that's our fault. Why can't you get your kid to respect mine and do what you say?
I love that because knowledge is power.
So I was actually looking for what I was missing.
The father validates, especially the girls. And single women have to understand you're raising someone's husband.
You could be in the house with your children and don't have a relationship with them. No, don't ask me if you don't want me to tell you.
Who am I to you? What I explained to him years ago, I'm a GPS.
We were born or raised to not really show emotion, to not really communicate properly. You don't know how to balance that, then the kids grow up in an imbalanced mindset.
So happy that you picked this topic.
Help them to make their preference the standard.
This episode is dedicated to every involved and active father around the world, biological and those who stepped up to fill in the gap. And a special shout out to my father, Milton Sr. I love you, Dad. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrity Talk Show. I'm your host, Brittany Sarah Lynn, and I thank you so very much for joining me today. If you're not already subscribed, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. We have a ton of great giveaways on the way for all of you, and we don't want you all to miss out. We have a number of special guests in the studio today. As you all know, we're in the midst of our thought-provoking series where we bring you all varying opinions on our most popular topics. Today, our panelist coordinator, Ms. Marlene Tremule, enlisted some amazing couples to do just that. But before I introduce you to our panel, let me start by telling you a little bit about Marlene. Marlene Tremule is a spiritual life coach, minister, author, women empowerment speaker, and self-empowerment expert. Marlene co-authored her first book, Divorce Your Debt, with her husband, Reverend Terrence E. Tremule Sr., which is listed as an Amazon's bestseller in Christian spiritual growth. Divorce Your Debt was written to help the reader identify 4 key areas in their life that represent bondage and debt. As a spiritual life coach, she realized that women often found themselves getting involved into toxic relationships and becoming unconsciously married to those toxic relationships and needed deliverance. The book is a spiritual journey from debt to deliverance. Marlene's mission in life is to reach, teach, and empower women to become all that God has purposed them to become. Through seminars and conferences, Marlene helps women who have been hurt, lost, and neglected to identify who they are and lead them back to a place of healing. Marlene has been married for 26 years to Reverend Terrence E. Tremule Sr. and has 2 beautiful children. As husband and wife, they have created training programs to transform believers into disciples for Christ, saving marriages through their marriage ministry, deliverance from toxic relationships, and preaching the gospel to lost souls. So today on our panel, we have Mr. Terrence and Ms. Marlene Tremule.
Hi.
Oh.
We have Mr. Michael and Angela Tremule.
Hi.
And we have Mr. William and Cassandra Everett.
Hello.
Thank you all so very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
So today's episode is all about the missing link in fatherhood. And I was so happy that you picked this topic because I truly think that fathers sometimes go overlooked. And it's a really good topic to expound on. So I'm glad we're doing that topic today. But before we jump into the questions, I want to start by directing this particular question to the men only. Can you please tell us how fatherhood has changed and shaped your life? We'll start with Terrence.
Well, it's actually a very good question. I would say prior to fatherhood, with my life, it was more about me and my wife and just kind of, a very closed kind of mindset. Mm-hmm. But when I had children, then it opened me up to the full responsibilities of manhood. It opened me up to the full responsibilities of fatherhood. And it takes a extra level of selflessness in order to be a good father, a good parent to your children. So it made me a more well-rounded person that I believe God intended me to be. And it brought the real manhood out of me to be able to have a child or children that I had to take care of and be responsible for. So
I love that selflessness.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, Mike.
Everything he said, plus reflection. It gives you a time to really look back and see where you were as you look at your children.
Yeah.
And especially I have a young son, 16 years old. I know where my mind was at the time. And so I can understand and I can probably give him the things that probably I needed. Since, I would think about, okay, when I was 16, what was important to me, so forth and so on. So patience, growth and reflection, and then just let them cultivate, grow. That's it. That's it.
Love that. Love that. William?
Well, it made me become a better thinker before I started making decisions. Growing up, I was in a big family. Had a very big family. Okay, so sometimes you didn't get that extra attention because there's so many of us. But by me being the youngest, I can kind of see what to do and what not to do. Okay, so now as far as my children, being the figurehead, the father, I can kind of impart some things. Well, I have imparted things into him that my father was imparting to me when he could, because I saw a lot of good. I watched him just like, you're a kid and your dad asked you a question and he can say anything. And you can say, man, my dad knew everything, but you don't know that.
Right.
You don't know that. And my son actually did that to me. We were driving, he asked me a question and I just say something. He says, Dad, you so smart. But that's a part of, if you're not imparting into your child the right things, if they will go off what you tell them, what you show them.
Absolutely.
So with my father, I watched some of the things that he's done and he put in my life, imparting to my kids.
Yes. I love that. I always say that children are like sponges. They're so malleable. So I said this in our previous episode, they're a product of their environment and everything that we put into them. So I understand what you're saying. To them, they're superheroes. They're everything. Their world. So it's important as parents that we rise. I'm not a parent, but that parents rise to the occasion of, being in that role for sure. Right. Okay. I love that. Well, this next question I want to open up to everyone because I think it's so important to hear the ladies' perspective on this as well. I want to know what you all feel defines fatherhood. Like, what is when you talk about the role of a father, how do you define that role? Marlene, we'll start with you.
One of the things I look for is a God-fearing man.
Amen.
Because I wanted to know, I was born and, and raised in the church. So I definitely wanted a husband that was being led by God. I'm like, if he's not being led by God, who is he being led by? Right. And I also wanted to know just what was his priority. Because you can tell a lot by a person. I always say, I listen to what a person do, their actions, not what they say. And I can say with him, just before we got married, we talked about everything as far as with children and his take on discipline. We both agreed on that. We don't say spare the rod. No, we never done that. We agreed on that. That's right. And I just liked his outtake on life, and he loved God. I love that.
I love that. You guys know I always say that's so important to talk about everything. We ask every question, don't we? Every question. Any question you can think of, that's another question. How would you handle this? And what do you do about that? So I love that. Absolutely love that. Terry?
Well, how do you define or what is it that makes a good father? I think that for me, as Marlene was stating that or giving her answer, the biggest thing is being led by God. And when you're led by God, you know that there are three main things that you want to present in a household. You want to be a protector, a provider, and the priest of the household. And those are the three P's is what we kind of call it. And really, unfortunately, I think in our world today, a lot of men, a lot of fathers may hit two of those things, but it's that third one, having that trifecta of a presence in the household as a father is usually gone. And the one that's usually gone is being a priest.
Yes.
You know, teaching your kids the values, the morals, not making them think that it's okay to go out drinking with them, getting high, and all this other stuff, which some parents, do. But a father who's led by God has to bring a spirit into the home of harmony and peace, and it is our job as fathers to make sure that that happens.
Yes.
And that seems to be the missing link in a lot of households. There's a lot of providers, a lot of protectors. That's built in, but you got to take that next step to be the priest in your household and bring the spirit of God and the spirit of peace into the household, and that's what makes the fatherhood, to me, the right balance.
Yes, and you talked about that missing part.
That's right.
That some people are not in the household, and we're going to talk more about that because I have found that it is, I don't want to say, it's almost glamorized sometimes for women to be in single motherhood.
Yes.
And although I can appreciate the single mother because they make it happen, you know what I mean? I call my mother Make It Happen Linda. That's who she is. She makes it happen. Still, it's not an ideal way. And I want people to understand that you want that male presence in your household, especially if you're raising children. They need that, you know what I mean? So I like that you said that because that is something that is missing in a lot of households today, that father figure, you know what I mean? But we're going to talk more about that. Mike?
Why you always put me behind Terry? He says what I want to say most of the time. No, but of course, everything that he said, I totally agree with. But you have to take it, in these times, I think you need to take it a step further. Personal development, I would tell anyone to really dive into that. The reason being is because there's always improvement for us.
Yes,
We're still growing. As our kids grow and they change and they go through their seasons, we're going through our seasons too. So you have to stay focused. You have to stay studying the word. And there's some other great books and authors on fatherhood and just relations with your children.
Yes, right.
You know, you got to have that. By the way, I have a daughter too, because I don't want to get in trouble by saying I had a son. But I think what helps me to understand what that role is and what might be missing in those pieces that Terry was talking about is just reading and wanting to do better, wanting to wake up in the morning and say, hey, how can I do better at this? How can I do better at that? How can I do better at this? Instead of always looking, and you'll hear people talk about their kids and their kids are this and their kids are this. Well, I'll say to anyone, I mean, what are you saying to that kid? You know, how are you raising that kid? I got into it a while ago with some older people who were talking about the generation that we have of children today. And I said, well, that's our fault.
That's right.
If they can go into the jungle and get a wild tiger or a lion and train them to stand up on their hind legs, stick their head in their mouth and do all this other kind of stuff, why can't you get your kid to respect mine and do what you say?
That's right. That's right.
So,
that's true.
but this all goes along with trying to understand now, how do I communicate with the kids of today? Because we come from a different era.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, but because right now headphones are part of their
Cell phones.
headphones, cell
Snapchat.
phones, IT, and you have to figure out how to communicate with them in that space. Now, before personal development, then it was like, this is what you're gonna do, and this is what you're gonna do.
Exactly.
Now you have to come to them differently, with a different approach,
That's right.
where they feel like they're part of something, and they feel like they're not just an object that you tell this and that and the other, but they feel like, okay, I'm some of the fabric of this family.
That's right.
I like that.
And when they take that on, then they care about what they do. So
I love that.
I don't want to take up too much time.
No, I love that. And you actually brought up something that I did not think about when you talked about the books. That's a great tool. Books are a great tool to bring that knowledge into your household. I saw a quote the other day that said something about the answer to all of your problems is probably in a book in your house, lying around in a book in your house, you know. But that's so true. And I know you're a big reader. You're an avid reader. He's always introducing me to things. Yes, absolutely. But I love that because knowledge is power.
Yes.
Knowledge is power. And so when there are things that we don't know, because fathers, mothers, nobody knows everything.
Right,
You can
exactly.
seek that knowledge and go to a book.
Absolutely.
It says renew your mind daily in the Word.
There you go.
How do you renew your mind?
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Get that knowledge in it. I love that you said that. Okay, I'm going to take it over to Cassandra really quickly. When you think of fatherhood and what you've seen and, you know, what you've experienced in the world, how would you define fatherhood?
Well, I can speak a little bit from the perspective of I was raised for so many years without my father being in the house.
Okay.
So going back to the books and those other tools, I was fortunate enough to have uncles. You know, you have the uncles, you know, you have the pastors, great pastors that you look up to, because I was born and raised in the church as well. So although I didn't have my father in the home, and to my mother, she married much later, so I had a stepfather eventually, but I was on my way to college by then.
Gotcha.
I had great role models in my uncles, my pastors, and so when you go back to, like I said, like Mike said, looking at books, you know, I was fortunate enough to look at my uncles in other homes, and other fathers that my friend, you know, looking at my friends and friendships and relationships, I could kind of, you know, look at those relationships and say, that's what I would like to see, you know. So the missing link of, like Terrence was saying, you're looking for a priest, provider, and protector. I looked for that in my spouse, so that when we have children, of course, I wanted that person to be the priest, provider, the protector, and what I was missing, you know. So I was actually looking for what I was missing in my husband and my spouse, and ultimately, hopefully, you know, that would be, you know, my children's father. So, so sometimes, you know, if you don't have it, then you have to go outside. There's mentors, you know, that we can look to. There's books, you know, that we can, you know, also gain knowledge from as well. So, but I did, once my mom married, I had one of the best fathers, you know, which was in my stepfather. So he was a pastor, minister, and so my brother was fortunate enough to be raised in the house with his father and my stepfather. So, so I just kind of wanted to speak a little bit about that. You know, there's always uncles, and there are always good models that you can look at when you don't have that person in the home.
I love that. I love that, and I can relate. I was not raised with my father in my home, but uncles.
Absolutely.
Some people have an active father, but they might be outside of the home. Some people have present and active where they're in. There you go. There you go. Present father that's not active.
Be there, not
You
there.
are so right. They could be on a totally different plane. So that's very true as well. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So it's so important to know that you can reach out to those other role models and other important people in your life. I absolutely love that. Yes, I love that. All right, Angela, we're going to take it to you. I think for me, I was the last, well, for a while, my brother is 8 years younger than me. So my dad, at first he was in the home and then he wasn't, but he was always present in my life. You know, my siblings, they didn't have the same thing that I had. So what I look for, what they didn't get, my dad taught me everything about, you know, what I needed in a man, what I should be looking for, you know, my finances. I didn't always listen, but he taught it to me, you know, and I think the father validates, especially the girls, because when the father is not there, you know, the girls is looking for that attention. When he is there.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, everyone, but don't move because we'll be right back on Celebrity. Today's panelists have been automatically entered into a luxury vacation giveaway at the beautiful Hilton Alara. Help them secure their win by sharing this episode and sending us a screenshot of your Celebrity Talk Show YouTube subscription. Discover your purpose and allow yourself to grow, transform, and thrive by reaching out to Marlene Tremule. Marlene is a minister, women's self-empowerment expert, spiritual life coach, speaker, and author. She empowers women and equips them with the tools to unlock and discover their fullest potential. It's time to take back your life and become all that God has purposed you to be. Reach out to Marlene today by visiting herinnerpeace.com.
When he is there, at least they can have that and know how they should be treated. And it's not taken away from the single mothers because they doing that. But no matter how, I raised my kids alone. No matter how single you are, you're not a father. Right. No matter how good of a mother you are, you cannot give those kids what they need from their father. So that's why I believe even if he's not present in the home, present in their lives is major for the success of the child. And then with the boys, of course, you know, teach them how to be men, you know, and a lot of mothers that raise boys, they raise them to be mama's boys. So they don't know. So, but women, single women have to understand you're raising someone's husband.
And when you're raising that husband, do you want your daughter to marry the child that you're raising? And that's what people don't look at.
Right. I love that. I absolutely love that. And you're so right, because they have to understand these are men. Like you said, you gotta and it's just a different dynamic. I'm going to that when I tell y'all my opinion. But William.
First of all, I think it's about relationship. You could be in the house with your children and don't have a relationship with them.
That is so true.
Because they need to know that you're going to be there.
Yes.
But you can't always say, well, I'm going to give you money, but what's that old saying? The young man told his dad, I said, Dad, how much you make an hour?
Oh, can I pay you?
Yes.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
But kids are actually going through that. I mean, the father could be in the house, but if you don't have a relationship with your children where you can actually sit down and talk to them, like, how was your day? How was school? And literally listen, not just ask the question and be like, well, I'm going to want the kids to get some drink. No, actually sit down and listen, have a conversation, because oftentimes people will ask you, how was your day? You don't mean it, because if you ain't paying attention to what they're saying, you don't mean it. So you turn people off. Don't ask me if you don't want me to tell you.
Don't care. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's like, well, I'm just being polite. That's all it is. But as far as your children, I think the most important thing is to have a relationship where they know that they can come to you also.
Yes.
Definitely. That's it.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine when things arrive, they're going to their friends and other people, and you find out later on that this was going on. Now you like, why did you come to me? Well, Dad, you didn't make it, or Mom, you didn't make it easy for me to come to you. I had a preconceived notion that if certain things happen, you might kick me out of the house, or you might hurt me, or whatever. But it's important to have that relationship with your children. And I think first that's it.
Yes, I love that. Relationship is everything. And like Cassandra said, you can be present, but if you're not there, you're not there. You're not present, you're not present. That's so true. I love it.
What he was saying, just a little bit of his excellent point, is that I'll tell my son now, who am I to you? I'll ask him that question. And what I explained to him years ago, I'm a GPS. What do you use a GPS for? To get where you're going.
Yeah.
Well, you have to tell the GPS where you're trying to go. That's right. And then you have to listen to the GPS turn by turn to get there.
I love that.
And when you think about being comfortable or uncomfortable about asking a question, just pretend, hey, this is my GPS. He's been me before.
Yes.
That's right. He knows where everything is, or unless most of the stuff that I'm trying to reach is, he can give me direction.
I love it.
And that's what I explained to him. So it goes along with what.
I love that. I hope you guys take that nugget, because that is an excellent way to think about your parents, to utilize them for the knowledge that they have, because they've been through what you've been through. 9 times out of 10, I love that. Your GPS. I've never heard that. I love that. So when I think about fatherhood and what it means, what defines a father for me, the first thing I always think about is the fact that the man was made in God's image. That's the first thing I think about. No man is God. There's only one God. But the fact that he was made in his image means something to me, because that is a totally, women, I'm a woman, I love being a woman, but we are an extension of that man. You know what I mean? So it just means something to me when I think about that, and the importance of the father being in the household means so much. That was like paramount. Like I said, I'm not a mother yet, but when I become one, that is paramount for me to make sure that I'm solidifying before I make that commitment. This person is going to be here with my child. And that's what I tried to do when I got married. We're going to do this, and we know we're not going to go anywhere, because that is so important to me. So when I think about the man and the head of the household and what defines a father, I think about someone who is there to show a man how to be a man. As Angela said, we as women, we can show him a lot of things. We can't show him how to be a man. And then someone who is there to show the female, I think that a man teaches both of his children, and female as well, strength. I think that they can show them, how to be strong and provide that different dynamic of love, so that woman doesn't go out and seek things the wrong way. You know what I mean? My mother smothered me with so much love. I always say this, that she did make up for so much that I didn't feel like I had to run out there and just
lose my mind. You know what I mean? Because yes, and that does not always happen. I know that does not always happen. But she was so good in making sure that we understood that we were loved. But like I say, still that dynamic that a man can provide, being head of the household, being that first extension from God made in his image, is just something that you cannot replace.
That's right.
And it is something that I feel like is often overlooked, because it's important for men to be there, to be that strong example, to show that strength that sometimes women cannot show, to show female children how they can, what they can look for when they grow up, and what they can emulate, what they can try to find. So when I think of a father, I look at somebody who is, in that role, who can give you those tools, like you said, the GPS. And I love all of you guys, the examples that you use. So I love that. So speaking of men being in the household, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. And like I said, I want everyone's opinion on this. Okay. The benefits that you guys feel you've seen being present and active fathers, being able to be there with your child. How do you feel like it's benefited your children? And Marlene, we're going to start with you, but having that present and active father in your house, how do you feel like it's benefited your children?
Well, you know what? I have to say now, it feels good now that they're adults. So now they can give us feedback.
Yes.
And some of the things we were intentional and with empowering them with affirmation and just being there for them and being that listening ear, like you said, Mike, with the books. And I mean, we have books galore, but to be able to live out loud with them. Meaning that we shared our mistakes with them and we were transparent with them. And it wasn't always easy, because sometimes we put up a shield as parents because we're like, no, when we were growing up, we never sat with grown folks, they always sent us away. But the generation now, these kids are curious. That's how they're going to learn. So I have this thing now where you say, the word says, train up a child in the way he should go. Okay, that does not mean you stop training them when they become adults. We have to grow with them, and we're imparting that wisdom to them, right? But the thing is, we have an open door policy, and trust me, they exercise that. So we want them to do that, because they come and ask us questions like Will mentioned earlier. They can come in, especially with Tamara. I can say that now, she's 20, you all, and she, have a little boyfriend, but she's on it. She said, listen, I've seen my daddy take care of my mom, and this is what I'm going to look for. We're big communicators, so that's what she's looking for. Then TJ, he's the same way. He wants a woman. I taught him when he was younger. I said, you know what, TJ, you're going to go out, you're going to meet different people, but at the same time, when you come to a certain age, you're going to have to start looking for a wife. Date with a purpose. Both of them, I told them to date with the person. If you can't see this person as being a wife or a husband, then you don't need to waste your time. That's my philosophy.
Life is yes.
You can have, girl, it's a time and season for everything, but you'll know when you reach that maturity point in your life. Don't waste her time, and don't allow her to waste your time, and vice versa. So they have that down pat. So I know that the impact that we've had on them, and they see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they see how we still come together. Like if we have a dispute, they see how we still come together. Okay, and apologize, to one another, because they need to see how our marriage look. It's not going to be perfect.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, everyone, but don't move, because we'll be right back on Celebrity. Would you like to be a celebrity panelist coordinator or guest panelist? We'd love to have you.
It has really sparked my life.
Simply email us at submissions@celebrity.com. Would you like to advertise your company on Celebrity Talk Show? Email us now at commercials@celebrity.com.
Let me tell you one thing with them that I know they took this. We've always started the morning off with prayer. No matter what, we never left the house without prayer. And then at night, we would pray before they go to bed. And to this day, they still do that.
I love that so much. And I can imagine that alone had a huge impact on the household. Most people start their day off with coffee, TV, running out the door, reaching my cell phone. Where's my purse? All right, bye. Something you don't even hear them. You hear that door close, right? They're gone. I guess they left. You know what I mean? So I think that's so amazing that I know you've told me that, both of you told me that a long time ago, that every single morning before anybody departs the house,
Yep, gotta pray.
You say that prayer. I love that because when I'm walking around, I feel like I pray all day. Anybody else talk to God just all day long, like it's you're on a 24-hour phone call. So I feel like I do that all day, and I would always say, I was telling you, Marlene, I was saying, I just, when I think about it, I'm praying for my family, I'm praying for my spouse, I'm praying, but the 2 and the 3 coming together or more. Right. We know that has power in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I love that.
And one other thing, too, I want to say, too, is you want to make sure, why I say it's so important that you pray with your children, they need to hear you praying for them. Because when they're like in separate places, they need to know they can hear your voice. Yes. They can be in despair, but they can hear the prayer from their father or from their mother. They need to hear you pray for them. We always say, I'm praying for you. No, let me hear what you're saying. Because that's how you're teaching them how to pray. You're the role model. So
providing that hope, that voice. I love that. Okay.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, for me, I've always discussed how important it is to have a reference point.
Yes.
So, for example, when a father's in the home, a good father's in the home, what he does for his children is he provides the correct reference points for them as they get out in life and they get out into the world. They can look back and say, well, how did my father handle this situation?
GPS.
And exactly. And so that ties into what Mike was saying. But the reference points, we all use reference points. When we're growing up and we're teaching our kids lessons of life, sometimes it doesn't seem like they're listening or they're paying attention. But what it is that you have to still speak those things and sow that seed into their head and into their spirit, because it's going to come up at some point. It's going to sprout up because they're going to face those life situations that you tried to teach them about. And they're going to they need a reference point, a positive reference point to look back and say, well, what kind of prayers were my parents doing? And it's so important for fathers because, so many of us from the old school ways, we were born or raised to not really show emotion, to not really communicate properly love. Because in our upbringing, love was about how much money I provide, and I was talking about, and how strong and tough I am, and put you in your place. That's my love, to keep you and protect you. But the reality is that that's not what makes a person a total person. You've got to also have the balance between masculinity and sensitivity. And so at the end of the day, when you don't know how to balance that, then the kids grow up in an imbalanced mindset. And so when challenges or issues face them or come at them, then if you don't have emotional maturity that comes from a father setting the tone in the household, that this is how I can be masculine when I need to be, but I can also be sensitive enough to listen to your needs and to address those things. And so the other thing that we have to look at is the difference between preferences and standards. Now, a lot of people, everybody have their preferences of what they want in life and what they want in a mate and what they want, but very few of us seem to go along with standards, proper standards.
Yes.
So the whole thing is that my objective has always been with my kids to not only set a standard, but help them to make their preference the standard.
I love that.
Right,
I love
right.
that. I love that. I hope y'all heard that. Make your preference your standard. I love that. I absolutely love that. And we always talk about that dating with intention because everybody's running around, gullible, not caring, like you said, wasting time. But if more of us made our preference our standard, then that craziness wouldn't even be allowed in our presence.
But they have to have a standard.
You gotta have the standard
set to go by.
I love that. That's true. You gotta have an example.
That's it. That's what
And I love that. I love that. And you being that present and active father, were able to give that to your children. So I know my standard, and we're not going anywhere below this. I love that. I love that. Okay, William, we're gonna take it to you.
Yes. Well, we currently married, and we are a blended family.
Okay.
Now, and what I will say, because the way we live, the children are actually looking at how we are living. Okay, even though they're not in the house, they can see it. My son and my daughter, they always call us for advice, although they're home with their mothers. Okay, and I mean, sometimes they say things, I can't say I won't disagree, but I won't say I agree either, because but I know they're right. And they're saying something about their mother or something. You know, all I would say was, well, that's your mother. That's all I can say. I'm not gonna bash it. That's your mother. You know, and I love that, because now they're 29 and 34 and 28. They still call us for advice. You know, and they always look for us to give it to them.
Yes.
I mean, my daughter called any time of the day, all night, son too. You know, and the one is in the house with us, and when she ready to talk, she'll come talk. She'll come talk, be like, hey, you know, but from what I see and what I know, they respect our union, and they like what we're doing.
I love that.
You know, they like what we're doing.
Yes.
You know, and it wasn't always like that in the beginning when they were a little younger. You know, we had issues with like holidays and who's going to come where. But see, they didn't want to upset the cart, because like, well, my mom said we're going to do this, or my mom said we're going to do that. I never push it. Y'all come see me after.
Right.
I'm not going to get into all of that. You know, but now they're older, they make their own choices.
Yes.
You know,
Decide for themselves.
Exactly. And they're doing just that. So I think that's important to actually show versus tell.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you can tell somebody anything, but if you're not living a life that you're saying you're doing, yes, they gonna look at you like, hold on, that ain't no. They ain't gonna listen to you. You know, and to get a phone call, I'm gonna call one of my buddies. They just tell me better than my parents. No,
exactly.
If you're not living that way, then. But thank the Lord that we put God first in our life, you know, and our kids know that. They know
so
that.
Important.
They know that.
So
you know,
important.
and they're always asking us, so are we going to go to church? Well, my son, he called, said, I'm going to meet y'all at church there. You know, and I said, okay, that's fine, son. And I don't push it on him, but we talk about it. I don't push it on him. But the thing is, he knows. It's not like he doesn't know. You know, but I think, you know, when you try to push it in, you start to push him away. You know, but they are adult enough to know that you got to be saved and have your life right with the Lord.
That's right.
Because the thing is, if you're not doing right, it's going to show in your life.
That's right. That's right.
And then you come calling dad and mom like, well, I don't say I told you so. I just, okay, then we go do something different. You know, nobody does think I told you so.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They just do something different. You know, and
I love that.
I love it. That's the way we've done it.
I love it. And I love that you guys are all talking about open lines of communication, because that's something that gratefully I think we see now more today. Because back, you know, a while ago, it was probably that fear aspect of it. And like, I'm not going to tell my daddy that. Can't tell my daddy I did this. I don't want to tell my daddy that. But now you have more of that open, like you guys say, your kids utilize it very much. Open lines of communication. And that's so important, because if they feel comfortable and know they can come to you, then they can save themselves from a lot of battles and possible troubles. Like I say, some of these kids, they're going to the internet, or my friend told me this or this, you know what I mean? And that's not good knowledge. So there you go. That's not the route to go. So that's good. I love that you guys are all talking about that. Okay, Mike.
They both took my index card. I thought you was gonna do better by not putting me behind Terry, but no. But no, honestly, structure was my word. And there's a standard in that as well, as what Terry was saying. But I think the men give structure. It's like life is a journey. It's not a destination. You're always moving, or you should be always moving, evolving, stuff like that. So when I say structure, when the male is in the house, one, it gives a person to see all the different aspects and the roles that are playing, if everybody is playing their role. If people aren't in those places and they aren't playing their role, then that vehicle is not going to move. It's like having a bunch of car parts right here. Well, if you don't put them together and bring them into an automobile form, all they are is parts laying on the ground.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, everyone. But don't move, because we'll be right back on Celebrity. Are you a parent who suffered the loss of a child? We would love to hear your story. Inbox us today at submissions@celebrity.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what this panel had to say. Tell us what you're thinking by dropping a comment under today's episode. Linda's Personal Touch and Brittany's Little Blessings Child Care and Transportation.
Quality 24-hour Christian and education-based childcare, where we specialize in children while catering to the needs of the working parent. That's right, we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Offering our top-tier curriculum, professionally trained staff, affordable rates, and our top-rated summer camp and extracurricular activities and programs. Linda's personal touch and Brittany's little blessing, where quality matters.
So when the man is missing, even if the woman is missing out of the house, when there are things missing, it's hard for that vehicle to function the way it should be. But when those roles are clear, and that, that's a compromise between the husband and the wife. God gave us roles, protector, provider. Provider is not necessarily just about things.
That's right.
When you're talking about providing, that's relations, whatever is needed at the time. That's who that priest is.
That's right.
So when you have that structure there, and if you're raising a son or a daughter where the daughter sees, okay, well, this is what I'm looking for, I would hope, this is the way God set it up, man, woman, and God is at the top of that list. Faith, family, finances is what some of the businesses teach. But when we have that structure, because I read in something where the mother definitely is more of the nurturing one, but the man teaches the child beliefs, gives them the understanding of life. Now, we have to know something to do that.
Exactly.
But along with what the gentleman was just saying, Mr. Everett was just saying, as far as they're going to do what they see you do. You can say whatever you want to say. I think T.D. Jakes had a beautiful message about model homes. I don't know if anybody's seen that one, where he's talking about what is modeled in the home. That's what is going to go, that's going to follow through. And the thing about this is when you realize, and I didn't really think about this reading again, and until probably recent years, and you may think about it, but you don't pay attention to it, is that what you're doing is you're training more than your child. You're training generations.
Wow. Yes, that's true.
And when you realize and you understand this one seed right here is going to have generations based upon what you teach this child.
Wow. Yeah.
So what do you want the rest of this family or the rest of this generations to look like is based upon you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's something, if you take it lightly, then you'll get what you may not want.
That's right.
But if you're intentional about, hey, I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing this for everybody that's going to come out of you. Everything that's going to go on. You need to know these things.
Yes.
And when you look at it like that, when I look at fatherhood, if I look at the fathers being in the home and present and being fathers, that's what it does. Because when they're not there, or they're missing these things, or you're abusive, or you hurt, or you do these other things, guess what happens to those generations?
They suffer.
They're cursed.
Yes, that's true. That's so true.
They're cursed. When you bring those spirits and those demons into that region, into that part of your family, you introduce them in, they're going to go straight to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. So it's so important that people understand that. And it might take a while for folks to grasp it, but it's just like the violence that we suffer now, or our community suffers now, that it's not over. When they bury their child and the mother gets up. No, it carries on. It carries on. It carries. You're passing it down generation, just like debt, just like poverty, just like, the spirit of violence, just like all of that stuff. And that's why it gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Next time on Celebrity.
I didn't want what I know to die with me. How did this dude come out of high school and get a house? How did this dude come out and he has a car? And all his college is paid for. Well, that's a heck of a head start.
Fatherhood has been under attack from the beginning. Fathers are the joke. Because if you can disconnect the connection between your earthly father, it creates an automatic, unconscionable disconnection with your heavenly father.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard it said like that. I hope everyone got that.
Oh, and then when I got old enough to realize what he was talking about, I was like, wow. And I seen it my whole life after that.
And then she came to me, she's like, I just wish that I had what his kids had with me.
She went back and apologized.
Yes, yes.
You know how important that is for us as adults to teach our children that we are also human.
To stop the cycle.
Yes.
Let's break the, like you said, break the curse, break the cycle, end it with you.
The steps of a good man are ordered, and so just put it out there, you know, and just speak what you need.
And we hope you all enjoyed this episode. We will see you all next time on Celebrity Talk Show. Bye. Bye. Make sure you're subscribed and that your post notifications are on.